You're listening to the Quint podcast.
Close to 20 years after the discussion on procuring Rafale jets had first begun, the much-awaited first batch of Rafale fighter jets is finally here in India. The jets flew out from the Merignac airbase in the French port city of Bordeaux, took a one-pit stop at the Dhafra airbase in the UAE after covering a distance of nearly 7,000 kilometers, and finally landed at the Ambala airbase on 29th July to be inducted into the Indian Air Force as part of its number 17 squadron, also known as Golden Arrows. And praises on the jet's capabilities are pouring in from everywhere. The touchdown of Rafale combat aircrafts in India marks the beginning of a new era in our military history. That's what Defence Minister Rajnath Singh tweeted. Javed Ashraf, the Indian ambassador to France, called it the beauty and the beast.
Our Air Force pilots tell us that these are extremely swift, nimble, versatile, and very deadly aircraft. You might call them, they are both beauty and beast. They are superb flying machines being flown by the best pilots in the world. Going to add a great deal of strength to our air power and defense preparedness, but it is also a powerful symbol of the strategic partnership between India and France.
As experts believe, the induction of these jets in IAF is a game changer for India. But why exactly is it so important for the IAF? How important is France and India's strategic partnership in the changing geopolitical scenario? And with simmering tensions at the border, are these jets likely to be deployed in Ladakh? You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shorbori. To begin with, why the hype around these Rafale jets? As we know, this French design manufactured by Dassault comes with a state-of-the-art design. A lot of it's quite technical for us laymen to understand, but some of the basics are that it's a twin-engine multi-role combat aircraft. It has 14 storage stations for weapons and one of the most advanced meter air-to-air missiles. From what we understand, it can also carry more ammunition than some of the other jets like the Sukhoi 30 MKI or even the Chinese indigenous J-20 jets. It can also outperform the F-16s that Pakistan has. And India will be the fourth country after France, Egypt and Qatar to fly the Rafale. So as we know, India has bought 36 of these fighter planes for rupees 58,000 crores approximately through an intergovernmental agreement signed in 2016. The first fighter jet was delivered to the IAF in October 2019 in a ceremony attended by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his French counterpart. 5 more are here right now, and another set of 5 is still in France for training missions, and the entire delivery is expected to be made by 2022. Retired Air Marshal M. Mateshwaran, who was among those who played a key role in getting the jets to India, told the Quint about why India began discussions on getting these fighter jets in the first place.
We started this process in late 1990s, actually. And the intention that time was, that the Mirage 2000, we are already flying. We are very familiar with that aircraft. And there was a requirement for, at that time, they estimated that the requirement was 126 aircraft. And let's go through, with the French as a follow-on process and order those 126. Establishing a complete production line. They were also about to wind up the Mirage 2000 production line and shift to the Rafale production. And therefore, a lot of things were actually, falling in place. They went and discussed with the HAL extensively. Almost everything was prepared. And then in 2003, 2004, when the proposal was put up, Jaswant Singh was the defense minister. And I think he very rightly, there were already some concerns because why are we looking at an aircraft that's already, from a design stage is already 40 years old. And therefore they said, why aren't we looking at a few, the aircraft that you get, like the Rafale now will serve for at least 40 to 50 years with us. And that's the way we should be looking at. And the second point is that such a huge procurement cannot be just, straight away into one industry. So he said, let it be a global procurement process. That's the decision he gave. Then we looked at from MRCA, it became MMRCA because we were looking at the aircraft like Eurofighter, we are looking at aircraft like F-18, we're looking at Rafale, and of course the Russians pitched in as well. The Gripen came in, and the whole process started. So ideally, we should have inducted by 2010-11 if the process was efficient and gone through. But for a variety of reasons, we all know what all happened. It's 2020. Anyway, it's never late. It's the right time to get it.
But we do know that the purchase of these jets did not happen without controversies. In 2017, the Congress alleged a BJP scam in this deal. They claimed that their government had made a much better deal on those jets, and the current purchase would cause an insurmountable loss to the exchequer. In 2016, when the Rafale deal was finally made, the count of the IAF's fighter squadrons was reduced to 31, which is much lesser than the optimum of 42 squadrons that India can have. But given its boastful capabilities, why did it take India so long to procure these jets, especially if the talks began way back in 2000? Ambassador Vishnu Prakash talks about what these delays can mean for India's defense.
Well, I think that Air Marshal Matheshwaran has covered it very well. We have a twin challenge. One, our dependence on imported platforms are so high that, we have to imagine that when China is at our border, our defense minister had to rush to Moscow to make sure that we get spares in time, etc., etc. And now the Prime Minister has taken a huge initiative by allowing 74% FDI in the defense sector, and we hope we can correct that. But this challenge is huge. So one is our import dependence, and second is our procedural delays. I mean, as he mentioned, the discussion started in the year 2000, and I believe I'll be happy to be corrected. According to my figures, we have an authorized strength of 42 squadrons, whereas actually we have 32 or 34. So can we afford this kind of a gap in preparedness when we have India is located in such a difficult geography? That is the second question. Third, I think that we are still fortunate that we managed to renegotiate a deal, and 5 of the Rafales are landing. The others are on their way. I was in South Korea when we were talking, and before that we were talking of getting minesweepers from South Korea. 15 years we went back and forth, and even today we do not have minesweepers in the country. I mean, there are multiple examples of a huge gap between the security needs and what we have. So long and short is that we will continue to get Saint Anthony's, who had, as they said, brought to a standstill all procurement needed by the armed forces. But we have to get systems in place. Indian national security is too big to be left to procedural delays. I think it's a very serious challenge.
Now, coming to the timing of the arrival of these 5 jets. From early May, India and China had been engaged in a deadly standoff in Ladakh, which is the worst one seen in decades. The militaries have disengaged finally at most sites, although not all the way yet. And with the Rafale jets being delivered at this crucial moment, many are wondering whether they'll be deployed at the border. So what can these 5 jets do for India's situation? Air Marshal M. Matheshwaran puts things to perspective.
Well, firstly, let me put certain things in a proper realistic perspective. We've just got 5 aircraft, and it takes, with 5, we can't just, say that we've now got a huge capability where we can take on, everybody. No, it adds the shot in the arm in terms of what it brings on the table, in terms of its radar capability. It's an ISA radar with the BVR missile capability, but 5 is 5. Okay, so we need to wait till the squadron builds up, and when 2 squadrons are there, that's a significant, add-on into the capability. That is one issue. Second is, for the first time, we've now decided to actually employ air power in a significant measure, and which is what we should have done all along. against the Chinese side. But of course, again, the Air Force is 12 squadrons less than its optimal number. And the issue of, although it's a remote possibility, in my opinion, a two-front war cannot be discounted. Given the strategic partnership between China and Pakistan and the way, things materialize. So we should guard against that as well. But comparing with the PLAF or the Chinese Air Force and us, our objective is to ensure that the Chinese side do not resort to any misadventures across the LAC, and that is our main objective. We're not interested in going across and bombing Lhasa or doing anything across on the other side, but we want to deter the Chinese. To that extent, this will add a significant shot in the arm, and we have enough capabilities to do that. On the other hand, the Chinese Air Force is modernized significantly. They bring in a lot of weight in their capabilities through their J-10s, J-11s, J-20s, their S-300s, S-400s. They have, the Chinese aerospace industry and aerospace capability is a lesson to be studied as well in terms of strategic development. And therefore, as long as we are able to deter them, because most of their airfields on their side are a high altitude, despite these advanced aircraft, it brings a limitation on them. Most of their support systems are quite far into the interior, so it's not easy for them to sustain if they want to take on an offensive. And at the end of the day, I don't think neither, of course not from our side, but China itself would not want to get involved in a huge, conflict which can escalate into a war. It is not good for them. It will actually sidetrack their global ambitions completely. So to that extent, I think as long as we focus on deterring China, we have enough wherewithal to do that with the additions that are coming in. But that's a continuous process. The way we need to do that is a continuous process.
And speaking of the simmering Indo-China relations, India and France have been displaying strong bilateral ties all through this time. During the Galwan standoff, for instance, Paris and New Delhi had held several talks where France assured all its support to India. And amid the Rafale delivery, as a gesture, France also sent medical equipments to India to combat coronavirus. Now, India and France have converging interests in the Indo-Pacific region, but how important is France and India's strategic partnership in the changing geopolitical scenario? Ambassador Vishnu Prakash says that France has always stood by India in the hour of need.
Well, it is, I think, one of our most significant relationships, and I have only seen it grow. France, like Russia, has stood by us in the hour of need. I was in Tokyo, and I need to recall that because I was in Tokyo when we went nuclear, and I remember how Hashimoto threatened to take India to the UN Security Council. Country after country had difficulties with us. We had, there were sanctions being imposed. Even Australia said that they used to offer some assistance of $2.4 million or something. They withdrew it. But there was one country which was willing to listen to us, and we all recall the famous strategic dialogue between Mr. Brijesh Mishra and his counterpart. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've sat in meetings between summit meetings between India and France, and their interest in India, the level of confidence that we have with each other. I would say that we have a broad convergence of interests has been unparalleled, and even for our quest for we have their unequivocal support for our membership of the UN Security Council and other organizations, international organizations that we want to join or have we joined. So I think that this is one of the big success stories of India's foreign policy. But it is not just a one-way street. Just as France is important to us. I mean, France also appreciates India's importance. France, in some ways, is an Indo-Pacific country, and there is some talk, although it is yet to fructify. For example, to see whether France can become a part of Quad Plus, and in different forums also. So I for one think that France is a factor for enhancing the security, peace and prosperity, stability in the Indo-Pacific region. And I, for one, welcome the advances that have been made in India-France strategic relationship.
If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.